If you were to tell that kid then that fast forward to 2024, that same person would be speaking publicly with ease, really enjoy it, mess up in public and still be okay with it, I don't think I would have been able to believe myself.
A lot of us cut ourselves down pretty early. We imagine what perfection looks like or the best looks like,
Mhm.
and then we tell ourselves that there's no way we're ever going to get there. And so, what's the point in even trying?
The year is 2000, and I am standing in a large room full of other high school kids that I don't really know. And I find myself trying to share really how I'm feeling in the moment after several days of leadership training. And I wind up stumbling over my words and basically confessing to the entire room that I had a crush on the guy sitting next to me. And every time I think about that, I feel like my face flush up and I just get so embarrassed. And if you were to tell that kid then that fast forward to 2024 and that same person would be speaking publicly with ease and really enjoy it and mess up in public and still be okay with it, I don't think I would have been able to believe myself. It would have seemed like a really far reach, if not an outright lie. And so when I was thinking about that, Dinesh, I thought, man, how did that happen? How do we as humans go from being really awkward and not good at something or not liking something to either being really good at it or at least comfortable with it and actually enjoying ourselves in the process? Like, how does that even happen? And
Yeah.
I know you've done a lot of amazing things in your life. You've been a beginner before, that now you're a master.
Yeah.
I mean, what comes up for you when you think about, like things where you've just gotten really good at it, but it wasn't always the case?
First of all, that's really kind that you think I'm good at something to speak about this. So, I appreciate that. I think a lot of it comes down to there's a threshold point when you look at someone doing something or you idea pops into your mind where you have to decide if it's worth your time and effort. And a lot of us sort of shut ourselves down pretty early because we imagine what perfection looks like or the best looks like.
Hmm.
And then we tell ourselves that there's no way we're ever going to get there. And so, what's the point in even trying? Right.
Right.
And for me, what comes up is that we're not talking about being the best. We're not talking about being the best dentist. We're not talking about being the best patent attorney. We're not talking about being the best dad or the best person in the gym or anything. We're just talking about, can you get better from where you are today? Like,
Hmm.
say you don't speak Italian and you're not trying to become conversational. You're just saying, can I get better? And if you can answer that question in the affirmative, then you have some motivation, some pull where anyone can get better at anything. Anything, literally. You can get
Right.
better at anything. If you put in the time, if you get some education, you get some guidance, maybe get a mentor, and you can get better. So wherever you are, you can get better. If you have that mindset, then you won't stop yourself short from even trying.
Yeah. I think a lot of us look at people who are s- seemingly skilled at something like
Yeah.
public speaking or
Mhm.
any skill, right? And you think to yourself, oh, it's easy for them.
Yeah.
It's always been this way. And then we also justify why, even if I learned something, even if I practiced a little bit around that,
Hmm.
I I won't be able to.
Right.
Right? Like this came up in literally a conversation that I had yesterday with someone about just having doubts about, well, I see myself as a good professional, but
Hmm.
when I talk about a new skill such as leadership or um, becoming a parent, like I don't know. Those people are great at it, but I can't
Yeah,
really, we have this tendency to do that because I think to your point, I think our brains maybe just go for that ideal and we think we've got to get there and we've got to get there
right.
fast.
Yeah, we're comparing someone's chapter 47 to our chapter 2, right?
Right.
And at whenever that happens, you just need to stop and take stock in, what you've accomplished. And one of my favorite questions to ask people, frankly, is, it comes up in for new attorneys who want to take the bar exam, right?
Mm.
And the bar exam is hard, right? It's difficult. It's got a very low pass rate. And one bar exam I'm thinking about has like a 60% pass rate,
Mm.
right? Now that's pretty scary. But you have to take a step back and realize that it's an open book exam,
Mm.
it's multiple choice, and it's pass fail.
Mm.
And so I try to break that down for some of the new attorneys. And then I ask them, I was like, okay, when was the last time you were in the bottom 40% of anything of your life?
Mhm. Yeah.
Right? Like, did you graduate in the bottom 40% of your law school? Did you get through kindergarten in the bottom 40%? Like, when have you been in the bottom 40% of
Right.
anything? Like, show me the D's, okay, on your report card. And then they quickly realize, like, no, I haven't been in the bottom 40% of anything. So what makes you think you're going to start now?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, it's true. That perspective of um, actuality versus fear is an easy one. It's an illusion that we buy into.
Yeah.
And, and then insert the justifications of, well, yeah, but now I'm in a whole other class of people, right? I'm better than average.
Yep.
But I've weeded out the kindergartners and I've weeded out the high school grads and I've weeded out the college grads. Now I'm in law school. And not only that, but I've already weeded out the people who couldn't or didn't go all the way through law school. Now it's just all the people that have really made it all the way through and had the tenacity and the intelligence to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So where do I fall in this elite group, right?
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter where you fall in that elite group of elite group. The only thing
Mm-hmm.
that matters is where are you today and can you get
Mm-hmm.
better?
Exactly. Right.
Right?
Right. It is so easy to justify why. And it's amusing to me when people say things like, well, if I mean, you tell your the path to learning something and to getting better at something is to actually learn, right? You
Mhm.
sit down, you absorb new information, and then you, because of that new information, do something differently.
Right.
Um, and so I think an example of this, a lot of, I don't know how many physicians I've spoken to
Hmm.
that have said, well, I'm a really great doctor, but I'm not a leader.
Hmm.
And I'm sitting here and I'm going, wait. I would hope you are, because
Yeah.
otherwise I don't want to be your patient,
Hmm.
right? You're already a leader. It's your belief that, it's not the same thing. And, or that when you can take those skills of decision making, analyzing information, and then making an action plan and then communicating that action plan and seeing that action plan follow through successfully.
Right.
Those are the same, whether it's about medicine or about management or anything else, right? Even if you're cooking a meal, you can say, I'm never going to be good at cooking,
Hmm.
but it is the process of learning inherently and understanding that you're not going to be perfect at it right off the
Right.
bat. Sometimes it can get really demotivating, I guess, if you're not enjoying the process. I
Yeah.
think that's where people kind of say, you know what, I'd rather just not.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the reality is that you're going to do things that you enjoy
Hmm.
and you're going to get better at the things you do.
Yeah.
And unless you can manufacture or create or find a perspective that empowers you to find something about it that you enjoy,
Hmm.
you're just not going to do it. Right.
Right. Right.
And so you have to, for yourself, figure out, you know, a strong why. Why is this important to you? Why is it something? Why it might help you in the future? What might be the strategic benefits you gain from the deliberate practice? And find a way to make it enjoyable so that you can um, actually do more doing, right?
Yeah.
And in the doing comes the learning, and from the learning will come the improving,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Yeah. And then when you see that improvement, it becomes more fun.
Yeah, and then you sort of create your own feedback loop where you see that your doing leads to improving,
Hmm.
and over a long enough time, your doings will compound, and you're going to look back and you'll be looking at, how far have we come? And I think we're examples of that in many different aspects of our life, even in the podcast, right?
Hmm.
As you know, that we've slowly went from Zoom to having mics to improving our cameras to getting these little mic flags here, um, to doing reels and YouTube shorts and upgrading whatever we have, to anyone that's starting a podcast right now. I'm like, oh wow, they're so far ahead,
Yeah.
right? But you
Yeah.
got to remember, we were sitting on Canva designing our logo and our cover art,
Hmm.
and it took us, probably 2 weeks to do that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And even then, there was this whisper of like, is this going to be catchy enough? Is this
Yeah,
going to be good enough? Almost to where it stops you from saying, yeah, let's go ahead and move forward with it because there's another step in the process that we have to start learning in order to get better.
yeah. Um, this is where, C is for cookie, and that's good enough for me. Is can be
Yay.
your friend. No, can be your
Yeah.
friend, in that, Brooke Castillo says B minus work changes the world.
Yeah.
And if you're waiting till you're perfect, or you're doing A plus work, you don't have the experience to do A plus work if you're not even allowing yourself to try B minus work,
Hmm.
right? And that's where it comes, like embracing that beginner's mindset, um, allowing yourself to, figure out where your comfort zone is, and then find a sweet spot, and then reach a little bit past it,
Hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true because I think the another fallacy is that, oh, well, if I'm not good at it or if I don't want to do it, right? If it's outside of my comfort zone, then I'm
Hmm.
going to just avoid.
Yeah,
Um, because and what constitutes not being in your comfort zone, right? Does that mean you're not having fun with it? Does it mean you don't know anything about it? Does it mean that you're afraid to fail? Any and all of those things can be true. But, when you can find a place
hmm,
where you can enjoy putting in the time, you can really start to create a process for yourself that you can come back to and it makes it more fun when you have a process in place to
yeah,
say, all right, I'm going to practice this skill deliberately
right,
over and over again until I'm starting to get better. And the fact of the matter is, the more reps you do, the better you're going to get, so long as you actually stop once you've done the reps and reflect. I think that's
mhm,
also the other thing. People tend to
yeah,
want to just like, but I'm gonna shoot this basket.
yeah,
I'm true to our word. I continued reading Hidden Potential.
good,
Um, and it's talking about, you can sit there and continuously dunk balls over
mhm,
and over and over again. But if you don't stop and reflect on what about your process actually isn't working,
right,
then it's going to feel like you're failing the whole way when in reality it may just be, maybe it's just your foot and how you're doing, or maybe it's how you're holding the ball. Maybe it's
right,
how your hips are square. It could be anything,
hmm,
but we tend to want to dismiss the whole thing and say I just suck at all of it
yeah,
without the process.
absolutely, absolutely. And that's what deliberate practice is being aware of what where your weaknesses are, where your areas of improvement are, and methodically stepping through it, and working to improve it.
Hmm.
Yeah, great book is by it's a book called Peak by Lars Anderson or something like that. He's a professor
Oh,
at FSU.
okay.
It's a fantastic book on um, deliberate practice, and it's by Anders Ericsson. It's called
Okay.
Peak. Secrets from the New Science of Expertise. Fantastic, fantastic book. It really breaks down, how the process of getting better. So, Seema, you started out with a story where um, you used your speech to tell the guy next to you that you liked him. Is
Okay,
that was
that
a
is
story,
not
right?
yes, but I wasn't using my speech to tell the guy that I liked him. I wasn't
Potato,
trying to
potato.
share that.
Yeah, potato, potato. Okay, so you had this speech. I heard you were trying to, publicly profess your love for the guy next to you. You have another perspective, but you got better from there, right?
I did.
What did you
I
do?
would hope.
What was your process like? How did you get
Well,
better?
first of all, I think what keeps us stuck, and for me, what kept me stuck was this narrative that I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
I'm not good at it, and I'm never going to be good at it because it's hard for me, and I should just leave it to people that are easy. Like they find it easier. They're just naturally spotlight seekers.
Yep. Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, why would I do something that other people are better suited to do? And especially if it seems easy for them. And I think the fall in that is the assumption that because it looks effortless on the outside,
Yeah.
it's easy.
Mhm. So good. Yep. I mean, you're reminding me of Aristotle's quote, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit."
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think what you're talking about is a lot of like the mindset work behind even allowing yourself to try. But you got over that mindset type of thing. What was your actual process for getting better?
Well, I first of all don't think that I intentionally made public speaking like I want to get better at this after I had had that experience as a kid. Part of
Mhm.
that I think is just maturity. And part of that comes from, you go through school and you learn all of these things and you kind of prove to yourself like, oh, I can do things that are hard. I can do things that not everyone can do. Um, and then part of it, I remember when I started my Instagram account back in
Mhm.
like I think 2018, and I had no idea what I was talking about in terms
Yeah.
of, and not that I didn't know, but meaning I didn't know what I wanted my page to be about. And people kept asking me or telling me you need to have a thing that you
Yeah.
talk about on Instagram, and I had no idea. But
Mhm.
I would get on there anyway.
Yeah.
Um, and not really having a real goal or a real understanding of why. I just knew I was like unhappy in dentistry and let's try and play around with Instagram and see what happens. So my friend Alpha was telling me that she really gets on stories and shares her life because it helps connect with her audience. And I said, well, but you do it so effortlessly. You just look like you're so comfortable on camera. I feel like I'm having a real life conversation with you.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and she was like, Seema, you just have to pretend like the camera's your best friend.
Yeah.
Just pretend like the camera's there and they want to support you and it's only going to see you in the best light and you're going to feel really dumb and really stupid and you're definitely not going to want to do it in public for a while.
Yeah.
Um, but just do it. Like find a comfortable place in your house and just practice talking to the camera.
Yeah.
And I think once I went through that a little bit over and over again, I started to see like, okay, it's not so weird
Mhm.
talking to the camera.
Yeah.
I see other people doing it. Obviously, they're talking to their cameras if they're getting on Instagram stories and sharing bits about their life.
Mhm.
And I think it was just, yeah, that process of willing to feel and look stupid.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then also giving yourself permission to share that and be like, okay, I know this isn't going to be perfect, but I have like 10 followers, so really how far is this going to go?
Yeah.
Right?
No, that's great.
Repetition.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, you have to be willing to look stupid. You have to and the reality is I think anyone that does anything is kind of stupid in
Yeah.
somebody else's
Somebody's
eyes, right?
opinion. Yeah.
I mean, just think about it. There is a kid that's out there who probably it comes from a family that is, a blue collar workforce, and that kid wants to be a doctor. And it's the
Mm-hmm.
first person in their family that wants to be a doctor, right? Someone's going to be like, that's not what we do. We're not doctors. We're railroad workers, or we're plumbers, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And but you can't let uh, being stupid or looking stupid stop you. In fact, I actually think that if you feel like you're being stupid at something, or you're going to look foolish, that's the thing. That's the sign where you should go further in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you should double down. And I can promise you that once you do, and you start to get good, once you get started and once you start to get good at it, no one's going to think you're stupid. They're going to
Mm-hmm.
come and tell you how much of a motivator you've been, as an example,
Right.
for them to do something. So yeah.
Exactly. You bring up such a great point, Dinesh, because that's a very common thing that I hear is like, what if I mess up? Or what if I should have said this one thing in this meeting, but instead I didn't, or
Mhm.
I misspoke, or I didn't say anything at all. And now I'm really wishing that if only I could have said, this. And I think what I've learned is that when I've made mistakes, uh, the the result is somebody coming up to me and going, "Hey, I really love that you did that you were willing to sort of say whatever." Because in our minds, we're probably telling ourselves it sucked
Yeah.
and how awful it was. But really what happened was that others didn't see how you think you messed up.
Right.
It's a matter of perception. And so you were actually able to clearly communicate what you were trying to better than you realized. And honestly, if you mess up in public, like, you're human. And once you become a human to people, people connect with that, right?
Right.
People are willing to let their guards down a little bit. I heard so Madonna apparently was in Austin
Mm.
a few days ago. I'm not big into concerts myself, but a lot of my friends went, and my friend Liz was telling me that she was on stage, Madonna was on stage,
Oh wow.
and she fell
Oh, I hope
flat,
she's
like
okay.
fell. Yeah, she was okay. And she got back up and she said, you know what? People fall. I'm human and I'm up here in heels with bright lights and I have a knee brace on
Yeah.
and I fell. And, people were cheering her on and, being so supportive and things. And it's like, I think even that story just resonated with me so deeply because even at that status, right? You're Madonna and you're performing on stage in front of so many people and you fall flat on your face, get back up and connect, have that ability to connect with that innate
Yeah.
humanness that we all have. That just makes me a bigger fan.
Yeah, I totally get it, and I'm gonna flip the switch and be harsh to Nesh right now. Okay, tell me when to unflip the switch. I think if you're thinking that, what if I mess up, you just got to get over yourself. It's not that big of a deal, right? If Madonna can fall on stage and she's over herself, and then it just means you got to get over yourself and stop taking yourself so seriously, and just approach your work sincerely. Approach your work with a confidence, a mindset that you can improve, and put that ego aside a little bit, right?
Yeah. The ego
Um,
spotlight, right?
yeah, and it really just comes down to getting over yourself, and you're not that good. Who cares? You're gonna get better, right? I'm not good at a lot of things. I get better. In
hmm
fact, it's liberating to take that shackle off, or that spotlight off of expecting yourself to be good when you're not, and
hmm
allow yourself to say, okay, you know what? I suck at this. But you know what? It's kind of fun, and fun is a good barometer. So we'll
hmm
try it and we'll see where we end up. And the other thing too is give yourself enough room. Like, I started an Instagram account. I don't really care about it. In 10 years, hopefully it'll be something, right?
Yeah.
So,
I heard you say detach from an outcome, right? Like you can have a goal of I want to get better at it, but if the moment you sit there and you say, I want my Instagram to create X result,
right. Yeah.
that's when you've cut off, any sort of honestly freedom for anything beyond that, outside of that, that's even more amazing to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
You know, let's go with Instagram. When I started this account, I didn't imagine publishing a book
Mm,
or having a podcast or starting a business, none of those things. But you know
yeah.
what? None of those things would have happened had I not gotten on Instagram.
Absolutely.
Um, and
I
it
believe that.
doesn't, I'm not, yeah, like I'm not saying that everyone needs to get on Instagram.
Yep.
I'm saying that pick something that you want to explore, however illogical it is,
Yep.
and create a process around it. Because when you have that process of like, I'm going to do this in this way, that way you can find the fun in repetition, find the fun in troubleshooting where it is that you might need more work or less work.
Hmm.
Um, and then the other thing is too, it's when we're developing a skill, it's easy to gravitate towards things about that skill that come more easily and just say, well, I'm just going to get practice this, or pick the
Hmm.
skill that is hard and I'm going to keep practicing it. And I'm going to put this in context of like leadership, right?
Yeah.
You can say, I'm a really great attorney, but I'm really crappy at leadership
Hmm.
and leading people. Well, what about leadership do you feel you're crappy at, right? And not to say you, right, but anybody.
Yeah.
Um, is if Are you good at making decisions? It's just communicating them. That's
Hmm.
the issue.
Yeah.
Is it the ability to feel confident behind those decisions? Is like so many aspects
Hmm.
of leadership. And so you can sit there and say, well, I'm just going to practice making decisions better.
Right.
But then if you never practice the communication part of it,
Yeah.
essentially what happens is you might cut off insights that you're creating from communicating and learning to communicate that
Hmm.
might feedback loop into, oh, now I'm actually better at decision making too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
I love it. I think breaking it down into its parts and then specifically focusing on each one of those can result in the whole being better as opposed
yeah.
to some of the parts.
Yeah. Well, what's one thing, Dinesh, that you have found really helpful for yourself as you've looked to get better? Because if I know anything about you, you really love saying, I'm not good at this because it
Yeah.
fires you up to help you get better.
I think it's really sort of finding the sweet spot and then reaching a little bit past that every time.
Mm,
I think you figure out where you are, you take stock of sort of the emotions that are coming up for you, right? And, if you're consistently successful over 80% at something you do, and it's easy, it's effortless, you're working, but you're not really feeling like there's a struggle or a reach, that's a good sign that it's time to push yourself a little bit, right? And
mm, yeah.
you want to have a little bit of alertness for errors. You want to have a little bit of where you feel like a little dogged resilience or grit. Like I got to figure this out.
Hmm.
Like I got to get there. A little bit of frustration, and you want to spend at least for me a portion of your time sort of engaged in intense struggle, right?
Hmm.
To where you you're you're deliberately forcing yourself to
Hmm.
feel a little resistance, and
Hmm.
that always serves me really well. Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, just having that awareness that we talked about in the beginning, that you know you can get better at anything you do, anything you put your mind to,
Hmm.
through repetition, through guidance, through instruction. um, really is the foundation of starting something new or trying to be better.
Yeah, I so agree. Anywhere you put effort, anywhere you put intention and energy, you will experience a shift somewhere and something will change. It can't stay the same because you've intentionally sent more attention and energy there. So I
Yeah.
think that's really great to see. I've enjoyed personally watching you grow through the podcast and everything else. Your Instagram has changed and shifted a lot over the years and it just keeps getting better. So guys, if you haven't followed Dinesh, go do it because he's got some awesome content.
Well, I appreciate that. Really just trying stuff every day and seeing what feels good and what sticks. And like I
Yeah.
said, deliberately a little dose of discomfort every time.